Alright, it's time to play with a class of weapon that I am legitimately pretty bad with. The Ultra Greatswords. I'm using a dark build. I start out with the Dark Zweihander for this video. Basically alternate back and forth between Dark and Chaos depending on my opponent's defenses. And then about halfway through I'm going to switch to the Astora just because those are the two tryhard Ultra Greatswords. Well, I guess Lothric Knight Ultra Greatsword is technically better for duels. But given how light these are, you can stack a shit ton of poise and still be able to use them. And so anyway, these are the two I chose to use for invasions. Plus you get the benefit of only double split damage instead of triple. So yeah, in my opinion, if you're going to invade with with something on a Dark Infusion, you should probably choose one of these. They're both light as shit, they do a lot of damage, and pair them with a Corvian Greatknife for greatest effect. That's basically the build. Corvian Greatknife makes them panic roll. Ultra Greatsword hits them to do big damage. I was originally inspired to use this build by Gabri, the guy who Amish featured in his Getting Good series. Basically, Amish's Getting Good series led me to discover Gabri's YouTube channel, which basically he used it so aggressively and so well, even against really solid players, that I figured, you know, what the hell, let's figure it out, let's try and get good with it. And what do you know, it's a really, really nasty 1v1 build. This guy, saw him applauding me in the beginning. He thinks he's the hottest shit in the world simply because he has a straight sword and a parry shield, and he has an R1 button. Oh my god. But at the end of the day, like, he's really bad. He can't heal for shit. And he gets hit by approximately 8,000 R2s during this fight. There's one, and there's the last one. See? So yeah, that R2 is honestly really good. The best advice I ever received when it comes to Ultra Greatsword play is that the worst initiation move you have is the horizontal R1. That's the worst initiation move you have. R2s are great. Probably Stomp is actually worse, but you know, close enough. But you mostly want to initiate with the R2s unless you are sure that they are in range. You have to be very sure that you're not going to get whiff punished. Also, look at me pancake the shit out of this Freed Scythe user twice in a row. This next invasion is kind of long, and most of it I just got my ass whipped, so I kind of condensed it down to the highlights for you. Even initiating with the R2, here is something you have to be very worried about, getting backstabbed. Dragon Scale Ring is probably a really good idea with Ultra Greatswords, because they are undoubtedly, with their long-ass animations, at great risk of getting backstabbed. So anything you can do to mitigate that danger is gonna be good. Biggest thing to remember about Zweihander and Corvian Greatknife is that it does not play at all like Herald and Hand Axe. Falling for Barker Bombay in 2019. Wow. Instead of playing like Herald and Hand Axe, where each weapon is basically autonomous, Corvian Greatknife does like very little damage. It does a lot for a dagger, but at the same time not a lot overall. And Zweihander does a whole lot of damage. So all the Corvian Greatknife is in this situation is a tool that unlocks the ability to hit people with an Ultra Greatsword. So, like for instance here, swing once, little hit, he's going to panic roll because he's able to roll out of the dagger hit stun, and he just gets massacred by an Ultra Greatsword. And if they're just going to stand there and take hits until they can reaction roll the Ultra, then just keep on hitting them with the Corvian. There's really nothing wrong with this build in a 1v1 setting. If you play properly aggressively with it, like if you have no Estus and need to take a host who has a lot of Estus from 100 to 0, you can do, you know, insane damage in one combo. That's what, 1393 right there. 1393 pseudo combo. It is a nutty, aggressive, powerful 1v1 build. Arguably the biggest problem with this build is its inability to initiate against fast weapons, but even then you can just hit 40 poise exactly, and you will be able to poise through straight sword and curved sword R1s with an Ultra Greatsword running attack. And there goes that issue. Yes, the Ultra Greatsword running attack is backstabbable, but at the same time, if you play carefully, that's less of an issue. Decide to swap from the Chaos Zweihander meme to Dark Zwei here in a minute, simply because Havel over there has full Havel's armor and 60 strength, which would seem to indicate to me that he probably has a shit ton of fire defense. So I'm probably going to do more on Horn backstabs anyway. And I don't even hit 40 poise, but I can still trade with a one-handed Ultra Great Hammer, so that is pretty dope. Big, strong boys and big poise unite, except we're using Chaos weapons and Dark weapons, because I'm a filthy Metal Lord. But most of what this video is simply highlighting the 1v1 capabilities of this build. Because this is going to be a bit of a strange opinion, I honestly believe that this build is a lot better for dueling than it is for invasions. I know. It's easier to hit people with an Ultra Greatsword in invasions, as they say. However, when there are 4 people all around you, when there are mages, it is significantly harder to find free space to swing your big derpy Ultra Greatsword, largely because if you do so, there are 4 people who could potentially punish you, and that is not good math. However, in a dueling setting, there is only potentially 1 person who could punish you, so committing to longer animations isn't actually as much of a problem. Add in the main issue that an Ultra Greatsword's biggest weakness in invasions is actually, in my opinion, its inability to finish someone off. It's great at doing that first big spurt of damage, but it really struggles to get the last spurt of damage. And you've got a weapon which is not that great for invasions if there's multiple people involved. 2 people is definitely probably manageable, but 3 or more I would say swap to a Greatsword or a Straight Sword or something, you know, faster, or actually just basically faster. Even a curved Greatsword, would not recommend a curved Greatsword defensively against more than 2 people. Or even 2 good people. I would not recommend anything as slow as a curved Greatsword. That's not really... My problem with big weapons in invasions is not their inability to hit people. That can be frustrating, but you can do things to mitigate that. My problem with big weapons in invasions is the fact that they can't really finish people off, and they very much struggle to deal with multiple opponents who can all whiff punish you. But those are my 2 big issues. So anyway, I would prefer this build for dueling. Where does this build shine in invasions, though? In the little 3v3s post-Pontiff, this is a great build, because those are functionally 1v1s where you occasionally trade partners. If you can have people distract your opponents, if you can find 1v1 opportunities against another opponent, you can take them to 100 from 100 to 0 insanely fast. It's a really strong build in that regard. However, it is a very weak build defensively, against multiple opponents at least. It's fine in 1v1 defensively, but against multiple opponents, it's a real issue, because anytime you swing, you have to be sure that you can't be punished by either of your opponents. And that is very hard to do with a weapon as big as an Ultra Greatsword. Just trying to initiate with some R2s here, making sure I don't get whiff punished by free aiming them away if I think there's a chance that might happen. This guy, summon lags out. I should probably make a video on how to try and mitigate summon lag, but frankly the biggest issue is just trying to find footage for that shit, because summon lag kind of sucks in general, and there are things you can do to try and make it less sucky, but at the same, trying to find footage of moments when you've succeeded in making it less sucky is a lot harder. Nice thing about the Ultra Grab Box, as slow as it is that you can free aim it if you unlock after you get the grab on a backstab, and then you can basically use it as a giant weapon. Can't count the number of times in which I have managed to use that grab box as essentially a regular R1 after I whiff the grab. Because you will whiff a lot of grabs if you want to fish with these weapons, just because in the current latent state of the game, along with the fact that big weapon grabs are just hard to get in general, you're just going to whiff a lot of grabs, as long as your opponent knows what's up. 100 to 0, blue. 100 to 0. And upon seeing that all his support has vanished, the host promptly fucking kills himself by jumping off a ledge. I can't tell if that was an accident or not, but either way it was hilarious. Anyway, if you have any more questions for what I think of the build, you can ask me in the comments. But anyway, hope this is interesting and helps y'all. Silly Dog out.